All right, everyone, remember that time that Benjamin Netanyahu came out and told us that a foreign nation had weapons of mass destruction and that we should be more directly involved there? I'm not talking about any time recently. I'm talking about, the Iraq War because, Netanyahu actually did. Clinton, by the way, good friend of Netanyahu, probably thinks that people are anti-Semitic while at the same time chastising Israel for building walls and being Jewish. A rather funny situation, truth be told. It was very, very funny when the Democrats came out and told us, basically echoed what Netanyahu had told them, which was we'd be greeted as liberators if we invaded Iraq. Or was it the Netanyahu that warned us back in the mid-1990s that Iran was within a few years of creating nuclear weapons? See, that's funny. See, the mid-90s were a long time ago. I barely recall the Sheryl Crow-addled era of smashing pumpkins and bullshit like that. I was a little kid at the time. I was like, 7, 8 years old around the first time Netanyahu screams about the sky falling. I get tired of it when the United States government constantly tells us, well, if Netanyahu's telling us that he has evidence, it is absolutely true. You think it can't be manufactured? He shows you a wall of CDs and says, well, this is why we're striking Iranian forces in Syria, because basically the day before, that's what happened. Don't you find that a little bit odd? That the only thing that proves me, when Netanyahu shows me a wall of CDs of supposed Iranian intel that they got from some shit shack in southern Tehran, as though you can possibly believe that that's the case, because it's just a claim. I actually want some evidence, like I want to see the evidence, not see CDs. No, the only thing that shows me is that Netanyahu decided his old AOL disc collection was gathering dust long enough, and his wife's like, come on, I need to use this closet for fucking clothing. Get the CDs out of there. I'm tired of looking at them. The 90s are over. And so he decided to hang them up and put them on display, and then he said, well, this will be a good prop for, my upcoming propaganda. Or, look at all these documents, folder after folder after folder. Yes, we sent in agents into Iran itself to extract this information. Went off without a hitch. Iran just terrible at security. They don't know how to safeguard sensitive nuclear data. They keep it on CDs in a broken down warehouse in an area that easily could get broken into. I call bullshit on that. I'm sorry, I don't see proof here. I see a claim being made. I want something more substantial because claims are what we invaded Iraq on. And it was a terrible idea. And most of those claims were false. We weren't greeted as liberators. You remember that propaganda there? Early on, when some Iraqis got together to topple like the Saddam statue, and they would have a very close cropped video footage of it to make it look like a massive crowd of people. Oh yeah, 100,000 people turned out to watch Saddam's statue get pulled down. You zoom out, it's like, maybe a few hundred people actually doing it. Great propaganda strategy, worked really well until, the era of social media came about and we realized that basically we had been fed bullshit for years. Well, I'm sorry. Here's the problem. If some government, if Russia tells you they have intel, the Ukrainians are developing a nuke. They found one that we accidentally left behind. They're trying to prime it and nuke Moscow. You'd say, I want actual proof of this. It's a pretty tall claim. So when Israel says that Iran is basically saying fuck the nuclear deal and developing nuclear weapons anyway, I want actual evidence of that. But the thing is, if you claim that, if you say, well, the Israeli government may be conducting propaganda here, maybe it's a total lie. Oh, you're a Nazi, you're an anti-Semite. How dare you question Benjamin Netanyahu? The same people that we, the neoliberals, chastise every time he goes on about how good the wall works that he built in Israel. That's evil. That's we can criticize him, but you're not allowed to because you're criticizing him for the wrong thing. How dare you be anti-war? How dare you not want to see more strikes on civilians potentially based on bullshit that could be manufactured? I could take 100 CDs, mount them on a wooden panel, and show them to you and say, oh, my next door neighbor is developing chemical weapons. He's got a ricin factory in his basement. Look, I got a bunch of CDs I stole from him, basically, that say just that. Here's his instruction manual. Here, look, flip to page 50, blah, blah, blah. That can be manufactured, dude. Netanyahu could pop those CDs into a computer. Most computers now don't have a CD drive. It's very, very funny that the Iranians didn't upgrade to a flash drive. This just shows how shitty their tech is. You think they're going to develop a hydrogen bomb? They can't even figure out how to use a fucking USB drive? An SD drive or something? Bullshit. Total bullshit. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's You have to be dumb to believe this. I'm sorry, but you gotta be dumb. And then some of the Trump fans, they come out. And they say, well, this time I have to disagree with you, Sticks. Every other time when you call bullshit on claims that some foreign entity is being antagonistic and stupid and doing things that don't make any sense, every other time you claim it, I agree with you. But this time, no, because so Trump comes out and says the Iran deal is a bad idea. Who fucking cares? I don't care if Trump thinks that the Iran deal is a bad idea. That doesn't mean that they're developing nuclear weapons. It just means that Obama paid them a boatload of money for really no reason. But the thing is, supposedly the Iranians have been developing nukes since the fucking 90s. Shouldn't they have gotten somewhere by now? Supposedly, Netanyahu himself said in, I believe it was 94, it might have been 95, that was the first time he came out and said, Rumsfeld used to say shit like that. Where are the nukes? Where are they? The Israelis, I guess, aren't saying, well, Iran has nuclear weapons. They're saying they're trying to make nuclear weapons. But Netanyahu's been saying that for more than 2 decades. At what point do we say, well, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf? If you ever do find actual evidence that Iran has 5 or 6 atom bombs, they're talking about Iran wanting to take some Hiroshima-sized weapons and mount them on missiles. I don't think they have the tech to do that. Yeah. Okay, try miniaturizing it to that degree. See what happens. North Korea is a light year ahead of Iran when it comes to nuclear development. They've actually either got a rather large atomic weapon or a small hydrogen bomb. They're a step beyond anything that Iran could attain to if they detonated one very primitive weapon like fucking, we did at Trinity back in the mid-1940s. I am not worried about Iran. Why, by the way, so many people in the Western world think that Iran is the greatest threat to civilization. Why? Who told you that Iran is a threat? Look, Russia can nuke you off the face of the earth. China can. India and Pakistan at any given time could nuke one another, causing a fallout winter, crushing the entire world's economy and civilization back to the Dark Ages. France and the UK have hundreds of nuclear weapons. The DPRK has some dozens, probably. They have enough to flatten Japan. So why are you worried about Iran? We don't even know that they have truly an active, successful nuclear program. We know that in the past they've had precursor programs. They always claimed, hey, it's for energy development. How can we be so sure that they're not? What proof have we ever been offered? Of course, the difference between Iran and Iraq, Iraq you can just invade it because Russia wasn't sheltering them. Try to nitpick after Iran too much, see what happens. It would bring us to the brink of World War III. I don't care if the Iranians develop a nuke. Look, North Korea's had them for a while. What have they done? Who have they nuked? Kim Jong-un supposedly is batshit crazy. Nobody ever says that about the Iranian leadership. They just say that they're really, really severely anti-Western. Maybe it has a little bit to do with the fact that Westerners keep calling for nuking them. That might have something to do with it. If they develop nukes, I don't care. They're not going to nuke me. They're not going to nuke the United States. They wouldn't have the capability to hit us. It'd take them 50 years to develop a missile that would go that far anyway. Why the hell would they bother? Should be much more worried about their big buddy. It's sort of like when people say, well, Assad deploys gas on his civilians. He's on the precipice of winning a civil war, having a final victory and snuffing out the last remnant enclave of rebels standing against him. What does he do? Very visibly deploys chemical weapons against unrelated non-combatants just so that people can strike one of his air bases. Brilliant strategy. See, this is one-dimensionality in action. Now, Iran does it too. When the Iranian government talks about the US or the West being the great Satan, all of the evil Israelis, the evil Americans, it renders us to the one-dimensional. Absolutely. It's a form of propaganda. Because if for a moment people there didn't feel threatened by the US, it'd be a problem. It'd be a cultural breakdown practically. Meanwhile, the US government does the same thing. The unique difference is neither the Iranians can't tell they're being fed bullshit. They're being fed bullshit that 99% of Americans want a war with Iran. So they must be strong and they must keep saluting, parade around with rifles and everything. We're being fed bullshit of the same fucking caliber. There are Americans that believe Iran has a nuke and is capable of hitting us with it. Oh yeah, they probably have nukes. Yeah, they're the gravest threat to world order. No, not Russia. People who supposedly hack every election in the world simultaneously have 10,000 nuclear weapons ready to go and another 10,000 in reserve after that can be brought up online by some person sitting in a doomsday bunker with 10 gallons of vodka. No, that's not a threat to the world order. No, it's not warmongers here that keep fucking around in the Middle East, wasting our time, wasting our money and lives. It's Iran. It's Iran. Yep, they're the biggest threat to the world's order. Iran, they would get their asses kicked by Saudi Arabia. I'm not worried about Iran. They're surrounded by enemies. I'm not worried about Iranians. The Turks would attack them. Saudi Arabia would attack them. Iran itself is saying... Now, they're not saying it in a nervous sense, but I guarantee they are. Oh, they're trying to provoke the Gulf states to attack us. Yeah, probably. When you get Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Turkey, all at the same time bum-rushing you, I don't even think the Russians would bother getting involved. It'd be World War III if they did. The Russian military without nuclear weapons wouldn't even be able to face a host of that size. They wouldn't be able to do it. No, I think that we should leave well enough alone with regards to Iran. We should be trying to normalize relationships, rip them out of the Russian sphere, put them in the Western sphere. We're never going to actually manage to accomplish that, though, with our current ethos. It's not going to work. I don't care how many times Netanyahu tells people here, oh yeah, Iran has a nuke. Iran's going to get a nuke. Iran's trying to get a nuke. Iran did this. Iran wants to wipe us off the face of the earth. Help us. Israel already has 100 nuclear weapons. Pentagon report from the 1980s was recently declassified, showing that by that time they already had multi-stage thermonuclear warheads and nuclear triggers that Netanyahu in part helped steal from the United States. Hundreds of them. Enough firepower to destroy every major metro region within the Middle East. That's what the Israel has. You're sitting there worried about Iran having, maybe they get 2 or 3 Hiroshima-sized bombs. They're not going to use them against Israel. They would be nuts. They'd be suicidal. Yeah, okay, it'd kill a lot of Israelis. Look, there wouldn't be a single Iranian left alive. Every square inch of Iran would be blanketed with radiation. Anyone who didn't die in the blasts would very quickly succumb. From the lowest tenant farmer out in the hill, out in the fucking steppe lands, to the most wealthy urbanite Tehran dweller with their own makeshift nuclear bunker. Everybody would be dead. There would be 0 survivors. Hell, there'd probably be 10 million casualties of people near the border with Iran at that point. There'd be a bunch of, it'd be a problem for a lot of people. So no, I'm not going to sit here worrying about Iran. I'm sorry, I can't be compelled to worry. Trust, they're surrounded by enemies. There's no problem here. Now, Turkey could kick their ass. Egypt could kick their ass. Saudi Arabia could kick their ass. Pakistan could kick their ass. They probably all would kick their ass if they ever did have any real credible evidence they had already attained an atom bomb. People would say, nope, that's the last straw. Pretty soon you'd have 10 million troops drawn up on the Iranian border. What are they going to do? They'd have 1, maybe 2 atomic weapons. Israel would be aiming a dozen thermonuclear warheads at them, and Russia would step out of the way. They would probably back down because Russia wouldn't even survive a nuclear war with Israel. Yeah, sir, Israel would be a steaming crater. So would most of the productive land in Russia. It's a lot of firepower. We're talking 10 megaton weapons. We're not talking about some primitive, like, 10, 15 kiloton North Korean device. Also, Google the Samson option. That's another reason why Iran is never going to credibly, offensively attack the Israelis. Netanyahu can use that as basically a campaign strategy. It's basically every other year he does this to get reelected. Oh, a fraud probe is breathing down my neck. Look at the Iranians. They're trying to get an atomic weapon again. I've told you this 10 times before, but this time it's real, trust me. You gotta vote for me, I'm the only one who can keep you safe. It's like mafioso politics. It really is. It's like Russian-style politics when you think about it. Netanyahu has more in common behaviorally with maybe Vladimir Putin than he does the average Western politician. You know, he's a strong-arm, warmongering individual. And there are people in Israel that are getting, I think, tired of it. I think the Orthodox Jewish community is tired of it. I'm not surprised. It's like, oh, you're going to get us all killed. You're going to get the Temple Mount will be vaporized. How are we going to build the 3rd temple if we don't know where to fucking build it? It's going to be in a radioactive crater. There's going to be zombies in it and shit. Yeah, there will be a resurrection, of course. People who have been ghoulified. Yeah, too bad there'll be a million pharaohs running around in Tel Aviv. It'll be such a great time. Now, that's essentially what we've got to look forward to in the future, I guess. Netanyahu is a little bit like John McCain. He never met a war he didn't support, essentially. That's about all. Peace out.